Hey guys, we are going to be looking at Revelation 16 in this video, and we've been through 15. We left off with the seven last plagues. So let's see what we got here in 16. I may have a couple notes, but not much. Basically, we're just going to read and see what we can see here. So, all right, 16, Revelation 16, verse 1. And I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the seven angels. Now these are the seven angels that had the plagues, the seven last plagues. Go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. Okay, this is going to be during the time of trouble. Probation is closed. And this earth is going to be falling apart at the seams with the seven last plagues. It's going to destroy the earth. I mean, you got to think here, guys. The entire world is going to blame that little remnant of people that believes the Bible, that believes the Sabbath, that has the Spirit of God, and understands true Bible doctrine. Those people are not going to conform to the Roman Catholic, to the papacy. They're not going to conform to the United States government that is going to be run by church and state. They're going to make laws about religious things. So the whole world is going to be against these people. Okay, the church, the world, everybody. Okay, and that's the time of trouble. And they're going to blame the seven last plagues on God's people because they're going to think that God's punishing the earth because this little group of people will not conform to the world, and we know that we can't. But Satan's gonna get them to influence them to blame it all on us. The earthquakes, the natural disasters, all the plagues that are gonna happen here, the fires, the floods, the pestilence, diseases. Let's look in verse 2. It says, "And the first," this is the first plague. "And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth." Now notice this. "And there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image." So those who worship the papacy, who are worshiping on Sunday, and who are worshiping the United States Church and State Union government, those people are going to have sores, these grievous sores that are going to fall upon them. Okay, let's look in verse 3. It says, "And the second angel," and real quick, you guys, these seven plagues they're almost identical. They're very similar to the seven trumpets. Remember the seven trumpets of war? These are all, because this is how God tore apart Rome. And you see it's very similar when you look at these things. Let's look in verse 3. It says, "And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea." Okay, so that is huge. Notice this. And that's going to be that we're talking about great naval power ships, because you remember the second trumpet was remember the sea, the burning star that went into the sea, the wormwood. I think it was the wormwood one. That was the Vandals, and they had learned from the Carthaginians, and they came up from the south with their naval fleets, and they destroyed everybody that was in the sea coming against them. So we can definitely see that. The third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became blood. You guys remember the third trumpet was Attila the Hun, and he came in to carve up Rome. Remember, he came from the east, and he came along the fountains of waters and the rivers. This one's doing the same thing. So that's huge. So anybody that's living in America, especially, that's living by rivers and fountains of waters, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. "And I heard the angel of the waters say," now notice this, "I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art, and wast, and shalt be, because thou hast judged thus. For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy." We are given the blood of Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. We drink his blood and eat his flesh. So it's so beautiful, when you break it all down. And I heard another out of the altar say, "Even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments." Now we got the fourth angel. So notice there was a break in between the third and the fourth. The fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. Now, we know this is a book of symbols and signs and symbology. So the sun would represent God's light, God's truth, the true understanding. So that's definitely going to be talked about here. Remember, the fourth one was with the Roman Constantine and his three sons, and the governments of the Roman Empire at that time. Everybody was, they brought in all the pagan beliefs in the entire Senate, in the entire the government structure was ruling in favor of church doctrines, and that's how the Trinity came in. We just saw a bunch of mess. So verse 9, and men were scorched with great heat and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. They would not give God the Father glory through his Son. It's a problem we see all through the scriptures, you guys. So, verse 10, it says, and the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. Now, you guys remember the fifth trumpet was Islam, and that's when between 1449 up until 1840 was that fifth trumpet. It was that 150-year section. Okay? No, 391 years and 15 days. And you guys will notice that Islam kept coming up from the southern border of Europe, and they would take pressure off all the Protestant reformers, and then Rome had to take their armies, and they had to go deal with the Islam and the Muslims and the Turks. So they were the reason that the Protestant Reformation was able to not be squished out. So it was able to go and bring out God's truth and people to come out of the churches, because the papacy wanted to squash like Martin Luther and all the believers that were coming out, but they couldn't, because they had to turn around and take all their armies and go deal with the Muslims that kept on breaking through and causing havoc, because that's how God did it. It's incredible. So because of that, because the Muslims, the Protestants, were able to do what they did at that time. So Islam is definitely a part of this fifth plague. It definitely would make sense if Islam plays a big role in this. And it's upon the seat of the beast, whereas his throne is right there in Rome, right there at the Vatican. So verse 11, it says, and blaspheme the God of heaven. This is the beast. The beast is the one that did this, the papacy. They blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores. And notice this, and repented not of their deeds. See, you guys got to remember, well, these are the plagues, so there's no turning back. But anytime God persecutes us and chastises us, rebukes us, and puts us through hard times, it's because of his mercy and his love for us. He wants us to be saved. He's trying to get our attention, because he doesn't want any of us to be destroyed, you guys. He's a God of pure love. Okay? He loves everybody the same, you guys. It hurts him for all the people that are going to be destroyed. He does not want that. But people have to choose it. Think of the Jews in the Old Testament. God kept sending prophets, kept sending servants. And then at the end, actually, last resort, he sent his own son to them. and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes and the entire nation would not listen. They were deceived in all their beliefs and teachings and doctrines. And there's nothing God can do. If people won't listen and won't realize they're wrong, God can't change them. Not if they don't want, if they don't want it. He can't force it on anybody. The God of heaven cannot force. This worship, we have to freely give it. So it's beautiful too, because he would not force anybody to be a part of his kingdom. He's not a tyrant. He's not a dictator. Where God is, there is freedom. Pure, the only way to be truly free is to have the Spirit of God and by God's law. So it's the most amazing thing. Let's look at verse 12. It says, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared." Now notice this, you guys. I was wrong about the fifth one. The fifth one is Islam, but it was not it was the 150-year time period. It was from 1299 to 1449, July 27th. That was that fifth one, that the trumpet. And this one, it resembles it, all of it. So it's the sixth one right here, you guys, that in the sixth trumpet, when God was tearing apart the Eastern Roman Empire, he did that from 1449. That was the one that went up to 1840. It was 391 years and 15 days. And notice this, you guys, right here in the sixth plague, what do we have? We have the river Euphrates. That's the Ottoman Empire. That's the Muslim nations, you guys. They all came out of that area, the Euphrates River. It runs right there, and it runs through Saudi Arabia. It's right in between Iraq and Iran, where Babylon used to be. And there's another nation, but it is the Ottoman Empire. This is the Muslim nations. So let's read that again. The sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates. This is being poured out on the Ottoman Empire over there in Turkey. This is what this is talking about. And the water thereof was dried up. Okay? Now, because Islam and the Muslims are wreaking havoc, the papacy combined with the church and state, and their 10 kings they're going to have at the end, he's going to take his 10 horns, if you will. The United States is going to be in that. And they're going to bomb Turkey out of existence. And because remember, Turkey is the sick man of the East, because they keep losing power. That's what happened in 1840. Well, this is their destruction. If you go to Daniel 12:1, when Michael stands up, okay, this has something to do. I might have a note in here. When Turkey is pushed out of their homeland and they are pushed back into Israel, and they actually claim Israel as their own out of this. This is when Turkey is wiped off the map in the Ottoman Empire. The Turks, the Muslims, it's all gone. This is the sixth plague. And this is when Michael stands up, because the very next plague we're going to see, you guys. That's something we need to study a lot more of. And I'd have to get some published quotes from Ellen White to get some study in there. I haven't done that yet. I've seen it. I just haven't. I got to get it all together. And I'm going to continue doing that. So the kings of the East, you guys. Now, if this is the Muslim nations over there in the Ottoman Empire, the kings of the East, the kings of the East, I thought this was the papacy and their 10 horns. Because, let's read this again. The water was dried up. Muslim nations and Turkey's gone. People are bombed out of existence, I'm sure. That the way of the kings of the East might be prepared. I think kings of the East, because the kings of sun worship. You know what I'm saying? If you have your back to the temple in the most holy place, you are facing the sun. Okay? So that's what that makes me think of. The papacy, and it's 10 horns, it's 10 kings that it's going to be ruling with. That's what I think of that. I got to study it more, though. But let's keep that in mind. As we look here, verse 13, and I saw 3 unclean spirits. Now notice this, the way of the kings was prepared from the east. Okay, once the Ottoman Empire is wiped out. And then what do we see? 3 unclean spirits, like frogs. They come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. Now, from my understanding, the beast that it's speaking about, the beast of Revelation, that first beast, that's the papacy, the Roman Catholic Church and State Union. Okay? Out of the mouth of the dragon, we know the dragon that is Satan working behind the scenes, but he does that through the dragon of the earth, which is always the civil powers. Okay? So you would got the civil powers in union with the beast, the Roman Catholic Church, and all Protestants, all apostate Protestants. And then the final one is out of the mouth of the false prophet. Now, from what I have seen, the false prophet is the United States of America. Okay, it is the one that becomes the image of the beast. It is the one as they were falling in 1798, the USA rose up out of the new land, and they separated church and state, those 2 horns, republicanism and Protestantism. Okay, so in 3 unclean spirits like frogs, you guys, this is just like the 3 angels' messages. But this one's the 3 unclean angels' messages, you see? So we got messages and gospels are being preached on the earth. And it's coming out of the mouth. Messages, words, teachings out of the mouth of the dragon. This makes up Babylon, the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. Okay, the civil rulers of the earth are going to be preaching lies to us. That's going on right now. The Roman Catholic Church, the papacy, they're doing that same thing. And the false prophet, America, the church and state union that looks just like the papacy. Okay, these are all messages and teachings, and they're all lying to us. So let us not be deceived, you guys. Let's study these things. Verse 14 says, for they are, now this is what they are. They're the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth. See, there we go. And of the whole world. Spiritualism plays a big part in this too. Of the whole world, to gather them to battle of that great day of God Almighty. So this is God. You know what's funny, guys? For a long time, I had thought that this was after the second resurrection, when everybody came up. They came up on the breadth of the earth, and this is when New Jerusalem is on the earth after the 1,000 years. But I think this is at the very end, before the second coming. I'm not positive on that, though. Like I said, this is why I'm studying it right now. So as we just kind of keep these things in our mind as we're looking at them. But if we look at verse 14, they're the spirits of devils. It's the fallen angels are all in the men, in everybody. Basically pure possession, ultimately. They go forth to the kings of the earth. We just noticed that. That's the dragon. It's all the civil rulers and governments and powers of the world. Let's look at 15. It says, behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. Now, Christ has not spoken since, I believe, chapter 3, and he speaks right here. So this must have monumental importance. Every time I see thief, I think of the close of probation, because none of us are going to know when it's going to happen. That's what I always think when I see thief. But if we look here, it says, blessed is he that watches and keeps his garments. What's the garments? That's the garments that we wear on the earth. That is our character. Okay, it is the righteousness of Christ. We can wear it spiritually. then when he comes at the second coming, we're all going to have the white robes, the white garments. But that's what it symbolizes for us on the earth. And if we have that, we won't be naked and they won't see our shame. Remember Adam and Eve? The moment they sinned, they lost their white garments and they noticed they were naked. Remember, they were ashamed, so they hid. So that is so that's talking about our character, you guys. We must have the character of Christ to get through that, which we get through His Spirit, working in our hearts and giving us some new mind, new thoughts. Okay, we're almost done. Let's look at 16. It says, "And he gathered them together into the place called, in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon." Now it notices the Hebrew language. So this is telling, it's got to be over there in Hebrew, in Armageddon. Armageddon, the Valley of Megiddo. So this has got to be, yeah, like I said, for a long time I had thought that this was after the second resurrection, the second death, right before that. But something tells me that this is happening before the second coming. You know what, you guys? If you guys think about it, if the Turks are pushed back out of Turkey, back into Israel, think about this. If the papacy and its 10 kings with the U.S. in there and all the most powerful nations, if they were to go over there and bomb them out of existence and just unleash war on them to exterminate basically the Ottoman Empire, the Muslim people, they would all be gathered over there into that area over there in Israel in the Hebrew tongue. So that could be that. I'm not positive on that. I need to study it more, but I'm just thinking, that actually makes a lot of sense. But I'm not sure on that, so don't take that as truth. Let's look at 17. It says, "And the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air. And there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, 'It is done.'" So that's the seventh angel. So this is the seventh and final, the fullness of the plagues. And a voice out of the throne says, "It is done." I don't know if that's the Father or the Son speaking. I don't know that yet. But notice 18, it says, "And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake, and so great." Now that's an incredible earthquake. It's an earthquake unlike anything that's ever happened. And you guys know what I think that is? For a long time I had thought, because that earthquake is so great, because look how it's either the Father or the Son says, "It is done." Let's say it's the Son. I don't know. I got to study it more. But their voice is so loud when they say, "It is done." You guys, it causes the greatest earthquake in the history of the world because God's voice is that powerful. It rips the earth. I always thought that earthquake was what opened up all the graves and all the dead came bursting out, and the angels collected them and took them up to Christ. That's what it could be. It could be that earthquake, but that's what just pops in my mind as I read that. So what does it follow? Verse 19 says, "And the great city," okay, because of this earthquake, you guys, "and the great city was divided into 3 parts. And the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came in remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath." So I believe this is talking about literally Rome, the city where the Vatican's at, their headquarters. And the great city was divided into 3 parts. Notice how the 3 I see associated a lot with the papacy. The Trinity, the 3-for-1 gospel in Revelation 6:6 with Constantine in the Catholic Church. So that I see 3 with them a lot. You know what I mean? And I think that's a clue for us, just to add to it. But the city was divided into 3. And notice this, "and the cities of the nations fell." So all the nations of the world, all the cities are falling. Okay? And there's a lot of pastors are telling us to leave the cities right now because the cities are going to fall. It's only going to get worse. The lockdowns, the shutdowns, the laws are going to be changing. It's enforcement's going to get worse and worse, and socialism, communism, all that stuff. So, verse 20, and every island fled away, and the mountains were not found, because that's the seventh plague, you guys. That great earthquake causes all the islands and all the mountains were not found, and the islands fled away because of that earthquake, you guys. It's gotta be, because, yeah. Okay, so verse 21. This is the last verse. It says, and there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceeding great. So I believe that's the final thing, the hail that's coming down. And then, as we know, Christ is approaching the earth in his cloudy chariot of fire. The angels are carrying him to the earth. And when he gets here, he's going to show himself. And his light is so bright, the glory of God and the Son of God. It's going to, fire and heat are going to roll through this earth because the Son of God's going to show himself as he is. It's going to burn up everything that's got sin, and all the buildings and cars and banks and everything, you guys. Only those that have been redeemed, that have the Spirit of God and their character's been transformed into the character of God the Father and his Son. Those ones, you guys, that confessed all their sins and have been forgiven, are not going to burn, because they're going to be given new bodies. And who's ever living at that time is going to be translated up with the dead that were rising out of the graves. So this, as you paint a picture to all this, as you kind of put the pieces together, it's just fascinating. There is a few things in here, like I said earlier, that the time frame I don't quite have down yet. I need to study it more and compare, but that's what I'm doing here. So, well, I hope that helped you guys. That was an incredible chapter, and we will pick up with chapter 17 next. So, all right, well, God bless you guys, and we'll see you soon.